Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Barakahak Wadash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone who ruled and teach well. In peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. This is the brother Ra'aya with another video. And in this video, I'll be profiling an article from endoftheamericandream.com titled, "A Bill That Is Being Pushed Through Congress Could Devastate Some of Our Most Precious Freedoms." And I'm going to just get into the article and hit the main points through scriptures. It'll show that many things are coming down the pipeline. The destruction of America, which is biblically known as Babylon the Great, as well as spiritual Sodom and Egypt as pursuant to Revelation 11, verse 8, and also spiritual Assyria, and the famine of the word, where we'll no longer be able to preach this word out on the highways and byways or put up video epistles like this. In America, we are supposed to be able to say whatever we want and believe whatever we want. Unfortunately, freedom of speech and freedom of religion have been eroding for decades, and now a new bill that is being railroaded through Congress could change everything. If it gets signed into law, and there's a very good chance that it will be, many of those that choose to take a principled stance against the alphabet agenda, and that's that alphabet group beginning with LG, in the future could have their lives ruined by those that wish to use this new law as a weapon. And hey, in this video, I'm going to go into how the United States of America is known as a spiritual Sodom and Egypt, which should be very easy to see with just the way this country operates and this bill that we're about to read about. And if the bill gets passed, which Abaratazad does, it's going to make it much harder to talk about topics like this, and especially link them to the scriptures, which is what going to play into the famine of the word, where we're just no longer going to be able to preach the word at all. And we can also see that they're coming at another angle to bring about the famine of the word with the anti-Sem or anti-Shemitic agenda, where the 1948ers, the Amalekite Edomites, the Ishes, are saying that look at the fallout that's come from what Kanye West and Kyrie Irving has said, an uptick in anti-Sem rhetoric and attacks out here. We need to do something to stop hate speech online towards us. This is one of the most important bills that has gone through Congress in decades, but most Americans don't even know about it. It is called the Respect for Marriage Act, and we had been told that it was supposed to codify the Obergefell decision. Unfortunately, we are now being warned that it goes way beyond that. On Wednesday, this bill faced a key procedural vote in the U.S. Senate, and it was able to clear that hurdle. Passage of a measure that would protect, and you can see that word, that G-A-Y word, but for the video, I'll just say happy. Passage of a measure that would protect happy marriage rights nationwide crossed a key threshold Wednesday when the Senate defeated a filibuster and set the stage for final approval shortly. Senators voted 62 to 37 to move the Respect for Marriage Act to the Senate for an up or down vote in the near future. 60 votes were needed to overcome the filibuster and send it to the floor. Democrats could not have won that vote by themselves. 60 votes were necessary, and 12 Republican senators ended up joining the Democrats. And here's the name of these Republican senators who helped in voting on the bill to get it through. And just remember that voting doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. These are just those two horns of a lamb on that dragon in Revelation chapter 13. At the end of the day, these politicians that are in the club, so to speak, go after the dictates that are pushed by the elites, the true rulers of the United States of America, not President Biden or whoever, your Rothschilds, your Rockefellers, etc., etc. And one of the major agendas they're pushing and using the United States of America to heavily push it onto the people in this country and onto the rest of the world is that alphabet agenda beginning with LG. U.S. Senator Mike Lee is one of those that voted against moving the bill forward, and he explained that if it ultimately becomes law, many Americans of faith, and what faith are they mainly talking about? The so-called Christian faith based on biblical values, which this country, hey, when you actually look at how it operates, even under so-called Christianity, it's still contrary to what the Bible actually preaches, could be exposed to potentially ruinous litigation, and that tax-exempt status of certain charitable organizations could be at risk. I voted against the motion to proceed to the Respect for Marriage Act because the religious liberty protections were severely anemic and largely illusory, Republican Utah Senator Mike Lee said in a statement. While I respect the efforts and emotions surrounding this issue, the bill does not simply codify Obergefell as its proponents claim. And despite the proposed amendment from Senator Collins and Baldwin, the religious liberty protections are woefully insufficient, he added. Religious Americans will be subject to potentially ruinous litigation, while the tax-exempt status of certain charitable organizations, educational institutions, and nonprofits will be threatened. And I don't know if the 501c3 charter falls under this, but if it does, hey, you Israelite groups that have that 501c3 to get tax exemptions, if this thing goes through, you're going to have to take out talking about sodomites and those that are a part of the alphabet group out of your ministry, which, hey, already under the 501c3, you're not allowed to talk about particular things, such as the true name of the Most High and His Son, and what that charagma is in Revelation chapter 13, verses 16 to 18. So eventually your covenant that you made with death is going to be annulled. And these Israelites out here are going to see you for the charlatans and the wolves in sheep's clothing that you really are. My amendment would have shored up these vulnerabilities. It is a shame it wasn't included. There is still much that needs to happen before this bill becomes law. The Senate will take a final vote on the bill and it will be sent back to the House. But unless something very dramatic happens, it is very likely that it will eventually end up on Joe Biden's desk and he will sign it. And Joe Biden just recently had a TRANS social media influencer visit the White House and talk about the need to help the rights of those that are a part of the alphabet group beginning with LG. So Rainbow Joe is all for it. And once it becomes law, it will be virtually impossible to overturn. And Abaratazah, it does become law. It'll further bring about the fame of the word and the destruction of the United States of America for its wicked acts. Our nation is being fundamentally transformed, and nobody can deny that it is happening. According to a Gallup survey that was conducted last year, Americans that belong to Generation Z are more than 20 times as likely to identify as LGBT as Americans that were born before 1946. And here's a graph of it showing how many people from each of the generations identify as LGBT, straight, heterosexual, or have no response. And Generation Z is just completely through out here. A couple of weeks ago, I was talking to a family member and they were telling me that my stepniece, who's 12 years old now, was talking about how she doesn't know whether she wants to date boys or girls, or whether she likes boys or girls. Somebody at 12 years old. This is just the madness of the United States of America. And shit, do a little social experiment. Go out, and if you're talking to somebody, ask them, hey, what are your pronouns? And see what their response is. Whether they light up and tell you whatever it is, or whether they ignore you. That's just the madness that's in this country. Soon it'll be too offensive to say you go and talk to a woman and you trying to hit on her or whatever, and you talk to her like she's a woman, and that you see her as a woman, and she gets offended because she doesn't identify as she, her. She identifies as she, him, they, them, whatever. And survey after survey has shown that approximately 2/3 of all Americans now approve of happy marriage. But if you go all the way back to 1988, that figure was sitting at just 11%. The trends are very clear. America has become a radically different place, and there will be no turning back. Hey, we would have healed Babylon, but she cannot be healed. Of course, if we stay on the path that we are currently on, there is no future for our country. There is no future for the United States of America. The only future is one of destruction by nuclear fire. That's it with this article. Let's get into some precepts. This is Revelation chapter 11, verse 8. And their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city. And that's talking about the spiritually dead bodies of you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans who are the true children of Israel in the great city, the United States of America. 2/3 of our people are spiritually dead. Hey, whether they've heard the truth of them being Israelites or not, they don't want to identify as Israelites. They want to continue being so-called Black, Latino, Native American, Mexican, African American. They want to follow all these other philosophies out here, like being Catholic, Christian, Buddhist, Muslim, atheist, Kemetic, and even being a part of that alphabet group beginning with LG, which a lot of our people, a lot of our people are into it, and at the least they support it and will get up in arms if you say anything about it. And their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt. And as we just saw in that article, it's easy to see why the United States of America is known as spiritual Sodom. This is the #1 nation that pushes that alphabet lifestyle onto the rest of the planet through Hollywood, social media, and its political policies. And they've been putting laws in place to where you can be penalized, possibly even go to jail for saying anything against it. And this place is known as spiritual Egypt because it's serving in the exact same function that ancient Egypt served for the children of Israel, as a place of hardcore bondage and slavery. We're second-class citizens in this country. First fired, last hired, getting profiled by the police. You walk into a convenience store or whatever, and they follow you around the stores thinking you're going to steal something, etc., etc. And also, this place uses a lot of the same practices and symbolisms as ancient Egypt. Look at the back of your $1 bill with the pyramid with the all-seeing eye. The Washington Monument is an obelisk. You've got places named after Egypt, like Memphis, Tennessee, which in Memphis, Tennessee, they have a pyramid. And then you've also got that, I think it's a hotel or a hotel casino in Las Vegas. That's a pyramid. I think it might be called the Luxor. Then also they've got a recreation of the Sphinx in Las Vegas. The award that actors and actresses win at the Oscars goes back to an ancient god named Put. Getting your hair lined up was an Egyptian custom. Bread and beer, which are big in the United States of America, were big in ancient Egypt. The similarities just continue and go on and on the more you look into it. Where also our Lord was crucified. And hey, our Lord, Yahushua, whom the world ignorantly refers to as so-called Jesus Christ, is crucified spiritually here. They put up that false image of Cesare Borgia as so-called Jesus Christ, trying to show the Messiah as a so-called white man or Edomite with brown stringy hair and blue eyes, when the true image of the Messiah and his true name is Yahushua. He has the appearance of a so-called dark-skinned Negro with a white woolly beard and afro, which you can read about in Revelation chapter 1, around verse 14. And then the true ways of the scriptures aren't practiced in spiritual Sodom and Egypt. Even though they like to say they're a Christian nation, They do everything damn near completely opposite to the scriptures, and it's just getting worse with each passing day. I mean, just look at the article we just read. They're looking to pass that bill to penalize anybody that says anything against those of the alphabet group getting married to each other. This is 2nd Esdras chapter 2 in the Apocrypha. I'm going to read verses 8 to 9. Woe or destruction be unto thee, Ashur or Assyria. And like I said at the beginning of the video, besides being known as Babylon the Great and spiritual Sodom in Egypt, in Revelation 11 verse 8, the United States of America is also known as spiritual Assyria. Thou that hidest the unrighteous in thee, those that are of the alphabet group, they protect them. Again, as we just read in that article, let's just read what this bill entails again. Passage of a measure that would protect happy marriage rights nationwide crossed a key threshold Wednesday when the Senate defeated a filibuster and set the stage for final approval shortly. And it's called the Respect for Marriage Act. And if the bill ultimately becomes law, many Americans of faith could be exposed to potentially ruinous litigation, and that tax-exempt status of certain charitable organizations could be at risk. Again, woe be unto thee, Ashur, that hidest the unrighteous in thee. O thou wicked people, remember what I did unto Sodom and Gomorrah. And these Edomites, or so-called white people who run the United States of America, are known as the border of wickedness in Malachi 1 verse 4. They're the basest of the nations. They do everything clean contrary to the law, statutes, and commandments of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai, and revel in it. And one of the main things is pushing that alphabet lifestyle, beginning with LG. And the spiritually dead of our people have clinged unto these Edomites and are wicked themselves. Remember what I did unto Sodom and Gomorrah, whose land lieth in clods of pitch and heaps of ashes. Even so also will I do unto them that hear me not, saith the Almighty Yahweh. And how was Sodom and Gomorrah destroyed? With fire and brimstone from the sky, for practicing a lot of these vile acts that are practiced in the United States of America today. So what do you think is going to happen to spiritual Sodom and Gomorrah, spiritual Assyria, for practicing those very same acts? Hey, it's going to be destroyed with fire and brimstone as well, but it's going to be different this time. It's going to be from 200 million nuclear missiles that's going to turn this place into the biblical lake of fire from sea to shining sea, and then a desolate, uninhabitable wasteland afterwards. This is Isaiah chapter 13. I'm going to start at verse 19. And Babylon, the virgin daughter of Babylon, Babylon the Great, the United States of America, the glory of kingdoms, that golden cup in the Most High's hand that has made the earth drunken off of her wine or her philosophies. The beauty of the Chaldees' excellency shall be as when the Most High overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. And again, as pursuant to Revelation 11 verse 8, the United States is also known as spiritual Sodom in Egypt. It shall never be inhabited, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. Neither shall the Arabian pitch tent there, neither shall the shepherds make their fold there. As it says, it shall be as when the Most High overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. When those nukes hit this place, it's going to make it a desolate, uninhabitable wasteland where man, woman, or child will never set foot on ever again. And after a time, only desert creatures are going to dwell here, as it says in verse 21. But wild beasts of the desert shall lie there, and their houses shall be full of doleful creatures. And owls shall dwell there, and satyrs shall dance there. And the wild beasts of the islands shall cry in their desolate houses, and dragons in their pleasant palaces. And her time is near to come, and her days shall not be prolonged. And when we read articles like what we just read on endoftheamericandream.com, we can see that this horror's time is very near to come, and her days are no longer being prolonged before she's utterly wiped off the face of the earth. And we know this isn't talking about ancient Babylon, which is in modern-day Iraq, because people are still dwelling there to this day. And after the dust settles from these nuclear missiles, the former United States of America is going to stand as an eternal memorial as to what a wicked kingdom looked like, how not to govern the earth, and what the judgment and punishment was for afflicting the apple of the Most High's eye, the children of Israel, who were again you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, and the wicked of our people in America, the 2/3 that don't want to get right, are going to be more fuel for the fire of this great destruction of Babylon, spiritual Sodom and Egypt, spiritual Assyria. And over the past couple of weeks, I've been doing videos showing that these Russians and other nations are getting their nuclear arsenals geared up, and they're ultimately going to be used to be shot on to the United States. But like I said at the beginning of the video, hey, this article entailed a lot. It showed that the United States is spiritual Sodom and Egypt in Revelation 11, verse 8, and that it's going to be destroyed for that reason. And also, with bills like that being passed, or looking like they're going to be passed, it's going to further restrict freedom of speech out here, freedom to practice your faith, so to speak. And we know that that's going to further play into what? The famine of the word, where we're no longer going to be on the highways and byways preaching or putting up video epistles like this, which is condemning that agenda. But I'm going to close it out in Amos chapter 8, verse 11 to 13. Behold, the days come, saith the Lord Yahweh, that I will send a famine in the land, not a famine of bread, nor a thirst for water, though famines of food and drinks are coming, but of hearing the words of Yahweh, the famine of the word, where again we will no longer be on the highways and byways preaching this word or putting up video epistles like this online. And they shall wander from sea to sea, and from the north even to the east. They shall run to and fro to seek the word of Yahweh, and shall not find it. Once it's gone, it's gone. In that day shall the fair virgins and young men faint for thirst. Spiritually thirsty are people who took this time of liberty to get this word. They just continued to scoff at the word and cast it behind their backs. In that day when all hell's breaking loose, they're going to be running around like chickens with their heads cut off trying to find this word, but won't be able to get it. And they're going to have to get it how they live in that day. And best believe it's going to be that death by pain in 2nd Ezra chapter 9. And also, as it says in Ezekiel chapter 33, verse 33, and when these things come to pass, and lo, they will come, all these judgments and punishments from Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai for all the wickedness our people and these heathens have been committing, then shall they know that a prophet hath been among them. So that's it with this video. And with this video, I hope you sincere Akim and Akwath were edified. Just keep strong. We're almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites. And as always, I'm going to say Abad Babal, Kwam Yasharala, and until next time, Shalom.